FIBA rule changes 2024. Now, most of these situations have video, but in the case of the new referee signal, which is the pass signal when a player goes in active shooting, foul is called and they pass the ball away, since we didn't have a signal like that before, there's no video to attach to it. Or if there's just a written rule change and there's no video associated, there will not be. But I can 99.9% guarantee this would be the only video out there that has so much video support to the rule changes or visuals. I've already seen a couple, and it was just mostly reading the rule and maybe one or two videos. This video here that you're going to see has probably the most visual support, and that's what we bring to the game. Now let's get into it. When we look at the categories of major, minor, and additional information, you can argue that the IRS, which is the instant replay system, is a major change, but about 95% of officials across the world do not use IRS in their league play. So as much as it is a big change for that elite official, our videos are targeted to the majority of officials. We will touch upon it and look at it, but it won't be deemed a major change in this video due to that factor. So our first change is the throw-in. We not only have added 2 throw-in lines on the same side as the bench area. Originally there's only 2 opposite the bench area. So we have now 2 on the same side of the bench area, which allows a little bit of flexibility on throw-ins when a timeout is called by the head coach in the last 2 minutes. There are 2 scenarios and 3 outcomes. If we have a made basket, we know that players can run the end line after a made basket, which means they can throw it in anywhere on that end line. When there's a last 2 minutes coach timeout and they choose to advance the ball, they now have a choice to choose opposite to the scorer's table or the same side of the scorer's table. It helps to remember that after a score, since you can throw the ball in anywhere on the end line and run that end line, that it would make sense that the coach can choose any side to make the throw-in. Now we're looking at the other situation that has 2 outcomes. If we have a foul or a violation on this side of the court, which is labeled by the blue box, then we know a throw-in is going to occur on the end line closest to where that happened, or the sideline. End line provided that's not behind the backboard. So in a case like that, when there's a last 2 minute coach timeout and they want to advance it, the throw-in will occur on the same side of the court as the backcourt end line or sideline throw-in if they did not advance the ball. If it occurs on the other side of the court, like this blue box represents, the red line represents where the throw-in would occur nearest point to the foul or violation. If it's the last 2 minutes and the coach calls a timeout and wants to advance it, then it will be table side or score table side. This makes sense because when we have a throw-in on that side of the court and the coach wants to advance it, we keep it to the same side. That's why we now have 2 throw-in marks. The last reminder I'll give is that when we have an unsportsmanlike or disqualifying foul, the game will resume with a throw-in opposite to the scorer's table unless otherwise stated in the rules. The fake a foul interpretation has been changed. Before these rule changes, you could not have a fake a foul on the same play of a foul being called. So I'm driving to the hoop and I get fouled and I exaggerate the contact, we would only have a foul. Now you can have a fake a foul on the offensive player for over exaggerating even though a foul call has been made. We have 4 scenarios that the interpretation has been added, but let's look at the general concepts first. Anytime we have a fake a foul situation, we need to have a warning regardless of a foul or a violation called in that same play. A player may be charged with both a foul and a fake a foul warning on any play, or the player who is fouled may also be charged with a fake a foul warning. This is what we just talked about. When any player of the given team receives a fake a foul warning, the second one results to a technical foul on the player in question. Any excessive fake to be fouled action without contact can lead to a direct technical foul on the player in question. So this clears up some of the, hey, can we have an immediate technical foul even without a warning? Can there be a fake a foul and a foul or a violation at the same time? This clears that up. Now let's look at the interpretations. Case 1, B1 is defending A1. A1 pushes B1 and then makes a sudden move with a head fake, trying to give an impression of being fouled by B1. Referee calls a foul on A1. So referee reports a foul on A1 and then charges A1 with a fake a foul warning. And it says if there was one warning already given, then it's a technical foul because it's the second. In this play here, we see the player with the ball, James Harden, is A1. He gets an offensive foul, and he also tries to exaggerate contact of being fouled, even though he initiated all the contact. This would be an offensive foul plus a fake a foul warning on James Harden. Case 2, B1's defending A1. B1 pushes A1, and then A1 exaggerates the contact. Referee calls a foul on B1 and then hits A1 with a fake a foul warning. In this clip, we see the offensive player, LaMelo Ball, getting fouled, and then after being fouled, over-exaggerates contact by spinning around and rolling around. We would give A1 the fake a foul warning, which is LaMelo Ball, and B1, which is Westbrook, a foul. So a foul and a fake a foul are in the same play. Case 3 already solidifies in the rule book what referees have already been doing, but maybe it's just to provide clarity to coaches that may not know. But we have 2 fakes in the same game clock running period. So A1 fakes a foul, you give the fake a foul warning, and then a couple seconds later they do it again and you give a technical. So you're giving a technical before you're able to warn both the player and coach on a dead ball situation because it happened in the same running clock period. Case 4 has both players faking in the same play, so B1 defends A1, B1 falls to make an impression of being fouled. At the same time, A1 makes the son move with the head to give an impression of being fouled by B1. Referee charges both of them with a fake a foul warning. So these are scenarios where both players are exaggerating contact. This clip we have Embiid and Tias both exaggerating contact at the exact same time. They would both be hit with a fake a foul warning. If we were to look at a situation to include that might provide clarity to the team or might be something interesting to interpret is what if 2 players of the same team exaggerate contact at the same time, like Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid on this rebound here. They both fake a foul at the exact same time. What would be your interpretation? And what do you think FIBA would want to happen in this scenario? Correctable errors. Yes, I've been asked this multiple times to do a video on it, and I am. I'm building it right now. I've gathered the clips. This is such a big area to work with, and typically there wasn't clips to showcase this because of how long those scenarios could be depending on what they were. The first difference you'll notice is that in previous correctable errors, there's only 4 situations they listed in the rulebook. We now have an additional 4, and that's under category 1. There's also category 2. We will get to that. But here's something we don't have a video on, but we want to classify the difference between permitting and directing. What makes the difference is permitting would be you not knowing who the shooter was, or you didn't notice immediately that the wrong shooter went to the line. Directing would be the case where the official tells the wrong player to shoot the free throws. So directing the wrong player to attempt the free throws would be the official making that decision. Permitting would be the player making that decision to step to the line for his teammate to shoot his free throws. It's important to know this distinction because if you are directing the wrong free throw shooter, so telling the wrong player to shoot, that's an official mistake, and to correct that error, we would just put the right shooter to the line. If we permit the player, meaning the player came to the line themselves to shoot the free throw when they know they shouldn't have, then the free throw is attempted and the possession of the ball, if part of the penalty, shall be canceled, and the ball will be awarded to the opponent. The other change you'll notice is that before the rule changes, that a correctable error had to be recognized and fixed before the ball becomes live following the first dead ball. We now have different correction windows depending on the category of correctable errors. Category 1 has the 4 original ones prior to the rule changes, and the 4 new ones are highlighted in green text. Category 1 has 3 scenarios for general procedures: the error that occurs in the first 38 minutes of the game, the error that occurs in the last 2 minutes and preceding overtimes, and an error that occurs when you're entering the last 2 minutes. So here's the 3 scenarios a little bit more visually appealing. The first 38 minutes, what that looks like from the first to fourth quarter, what the last 2 minutes in overtime windows are, and then in the text, if the error occurs before the game clock shows 2 minutes or less in the fourth quarter, but the referee stopped the game for the first time with less than 2 minutes remaining in the game clock, the error must be corrected before the ball becomes live again. but they added the wording about the officials stopping the game for the first time. Why this is an important difference is because in the old correctable error, a made basket, you can have a dead ball, live ball situation and then lose your correctable error window. It is now scenarios where the officials stop the game, which could be a foul, violation, timeout, situations like that. And then when that situation occurs, they have more dead ball time to gather information and make a decision, as opposed to when a game in the last 2 minutes and a basket scored and then quickly thrown in. That's a very short window to make an actual realization of a correctable error. So this allows more flexibility and time for the official to gather information and make the correct decision. So if we're looking at the first 38 minutes of Category 1, our correctable error period is all the way up to the 2:01 minute mark in the fourth quarter. And the first 38 minutes of gameplay also includes the interval of play, where if situations occur during the interval of play or the quarters, you can still correct it. That is included. Which means you can have an interesting situation like this that happened in the States, where a foul was called, and because the team was in penalty and they were supposed to shoot free throws but they did not, they recognized it in the interval of play and they started the next quarter with 2 free throws and then went back to the point of interruption, which means whoever's entitled to possession at that time. In the other outcome of the Category 1, we have our last 2 minutes and overtime period. It's correctable until the next stoppage in the game, which, as we know, is when the referee stops the game for any reason following that error. This next scenario is almost perfect, other than they aren't using FIBA rules because they use different rules in the States. We have the fourth quarter with under 2 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter. 30 gets fouled and he should be shooting free throws. We have a technical foul issued on maybe a player on the court. So the guard shoots the 2 free throws, that's the State's rule, and they get possession. Then the big should be going to shoot the free throws. But the guard goes back to the free throw line to shoot his teammate, number 30's, free throws. So this is permitting the wrong free throw shooter to shoot. So we are still in a correctable error window because we haven't stopped the game at any point after this error occurred. The window ends here in the stoppage. So if they don't correct it at this point before the ball becomes live again, then the correctable error period is over. The other category is Category 2, which is in regards to the shot clock. So a malfunction in starting or stopping the shot clock correctly, or errors in setting the correct time on the shot clock. With this, we need to identify it while it's live and immediately. So if we were to look at it and simplify, the correction time is any time during the game that this occurs, but the correction window is only in the same shot clock period of when the error occurred. So it's no longer correctable when the team in control of a live ball scores the field goal, change of possession out of a live ball after the error, ball becomes dead when the game clock sounds for the end of game. So what that means is, if I'm on offense and we have the wrong shot clock on there and our team scores, the correctable error period is no longer correctable. If the ball gets stolen from me or a change of possession because I missed the shot and the other team grabs it, the error is no longer correctable. If the ball becomes dead when the game clock sounds for the end of the game, it is no longer correctable. Now we're going to look at the new scenarios and what that looks like on video. So we have a game clock error, which is including malfunctions in starting or stopping it correctly, or saying the correct time on the game clock. What that error looks like here is we have, after a free throw, a made free throw, the clock shows 7:20 on the game clock. Ball is now being thrown in and the game clock has not started. You see the official counting in the backcourt. Game clock still has not moved from 7:20. The official blows the play dead to go fix the game clock situation. The scorekeeping errors is whenever they fail to record or erroneously recording points for a team, failing to record or recording a foul against the wrong player, head coach, or team, failing to record or recording a timeout against the wrong team. So anytime there's an issue on the score sheet, and we see here that one coach is upset because they think there's an error and the other coach is wondering what the error is. We have the official looking at the score sheet to see what the error is and see what they can correct about it. This works with the new rulebook text when it talks about participants' responsibility, which we'll look at a little bit later. but talking about how coaches can notify the officials when there is an inaccuracy in anything involving scorekeeping, timekeeping, and shot clock operations. We have correctable errors when we report a foul against the wrong player, head coach, or team. In this scenario, the official calls a foul on a player that's not on the floor, so they report a foul against the wrong player. The partner comes over to discuss and provide information. Then the official goes back to the scores table to correct that error and report it on the player that was responsible for the contact. They added a pass-off signal to clarify the situation immediately that is not in the act of shooting because a player passed out of the act of shooting. This can help when coaches are from the bench area and can't see why it's not active shooting when they thought their player was in the act of shooting. And so when they showcase that signal, they go, oh, that's why we're not shooting free throws on it. This interpretation just backs up the situation that when a player's in the act of shooting and after they were fouled, they decided to pass the ball off. So that means the player is no longer in active shooting, and this interpretation backs it up, which means they are not shooting free throws, and this is when we would implement the pass-off signal. As you can see here, this is what it would look like. It's 2 hands to the side after you call the foul. So when we proceed to the new protocol, this diagram showcases the 3 different signals an official will use with plays of active shooting. However, the outcome/consequence are still 2. What I mean by that is we have 2 outcomes/consequences on fouls, including active shooting. Either we're attempting free throws or we have a throw-in. Now this graph shows that if we start our active shooting, we get fouled and we try to attempt the shot, then the signal of showing 2, 3, or 1 for free throw attempts that the player will take, or a player enters their active shooting after the foul, or a player enters their active shooting and then does not attempt the shot. That's when we'll point to the ground to showcase it is on the ground and we have a throw-in. Or a player starts their active shooting and they pass the ball off. That's when we'll have a pass-off signal, but we'll still have a throw-in. We have an editorial change for basket interference. As I said, the existing text provided space for individual judgment on it because it was very generic. The new text should help better visualize the situations. Here's the examples of what was changed from the previous rules to the new ones, like a simple replacement where it's the same thing, but you're just putting apply until the ball instead of the ball in those 2 bullet points. But here's what we're really looking at for our editorial change is putting in the words that it causes the ball to take an unnatural bounce or change direction. Purpose being is that officials were interpreting that anytime a basket was vibrated or grasped by a player, that is automatically a basket interference. But that's not true, because a player can cause the basket to vibrate or grasp the basket, which is the ring and or net, and it wouldn't interfere with the ball. And we say interfere, as the rule says, an unnatural bounce or change of direction. You will see a player do exactly that, but we shouldn't have a basket interference call because it does not affect the ball as this rule states. So we have a change in the rulebook text for Art 40, foul limits by a player and game disqualifications. The different additions we have is one, when we have a player head coach who committed 5 fouls as a player, they are now excluded player, but they may continue as a head coach. The rules were lacking clear and complete procedures for when a team member, including player or coach, are disqualified. One of those categories is reducing unnecessary delays. So when we have a disqualified member for a team, they should take no more than 30 seconds to leave the game immediately, which is the court area, and they should go and remain in the team's dressing room for the duration of the game, or they can leave the building. We just want to reduce the unnecessary delay that is associated with it when people are disqualified. It's important to showcase the distinction and give a reminder of what an excluded player is versus a game disqualification. An excluded player is someone that attained 5 fouls in the game and they're permitted to stay on the bench. A game disqualification is when that team member must leave the playing court. What that looks like from a player when they commit 2 technical fouls or 2 unsportsmanlike fouls or 1 unsportsmanlike foul and 1 technical foul. And there will be a game marker, which we'll look in a second, that will be showcased at the table to show that they are disqualified from the game. If it's a head coach, then a coach with 2 personal technical fouls or 3 combined technical fouls, meaning a personal technical foul with bench technical fouls, are 3 bench technical fouls. So people permitted to stay on the bench are receiving technical fouls, which goes to the head coach. Now, because we have a GD marker, it needs to be added to the equipment rule change of rulebook text. So player and head coach foul markers. And as we see here, we now have a GD in red, which means a game disqualification. It helps to referees that may be unaware or forgot that they handed out 2 technical fouls to 1 player. The unsportsmanlike and technical foul combination are 2 unsportsmanlike fouls. This just helps the smooth running of the game and makes it easier to recognize that that individual should be gone from the game. That is also applicable to how many technicals were given to the head coach on the bench. We have rulebook text change under timer duties to accommodate for this new equipment and procedure by putting in the rulebook text that they are required to raise the GD marker if someone is disqualified. With participants' responsibility, it was necessary to create a common statement for all the participants in the game. We touched upon this a little bit earlier. All the participants in this game, and it listed those, they have to have a positive role in the smooth running of the game and are expected to always demonstrate ethical behavior. And if they're aware of inaccuracies in scorekeeping, timekeeping, or shot clock operations, they should notify the referees immediately to ensure and facilitate the errors to be corrected. So having this in there shows that they can come together. 2 coaches go, hey, that's wrong. There's a foul on the wrong player, and we both have it in our stats. Now it helps the referee, in case they may not know, to make that correction on the score sheet. That's just one example. When we look at the instant replay system, it had to make accommodations to the correctable errors, so that anytime review, it added terminology so that way you can use the IRS for correctable errors of category 1 and 2, which is bullet point 2 and 3. And it also included whether a technical foul should be considered as an unsportsmanlike foul or disqualifying foul. So in a case like this, Draymond Green is given a technical foul by the official, but upon review of the IRS, they see this should be an unsportsmanlike foul because contact was made. Yes, in the NBA, this would be a technical foul. We're just pretending this was a FIBA game, and we looked at the video and we reviewed that it should be an unsportsmanlike foul. The other change in the IRS is talking about the head coach challenge, where they want to provide coaches with the same flexibility as with substitution and timeouts, which allows them to withdraw their request. So the head coach request for HCC, which is the head coach challenge, it can be canceled up until the referee grants the request by using the HCC signal. They need to make adjustments to classification of teams because the present OBR stated that the last criteria is the FIBA ranking, but that is only valid for FIBA national team competition, and therefore new criteria is brought in that after application of those criteria, a final decision cannot be reached at the conclusion of the group phase. Then the relevant FIBA ranking shall determine the final classification in national teams competitions. And in all other competitions where no FIBA ranking exists, the final classification shall be determined with a draw. Protest procedure had to have a rulebook text change because it needs to be in accordance to the Art 44 changes, which is correctable errors. So that's reflected in the protest procedure. And just like we've done to a couple of other articles, we need to make a rulebook text change to reflect the change in Art 44, which is the correctable errors. So here the scorer shall consult the crew chief and correct errors on the score sheet when the error is identified, and the error, if it's not identified within the limits defined, then the error may no longer be corrected. And that concludes our 2024 rule changes. If you have any questions or need further clarity, you can put it in the comments below and I will respond to them as soon as I can.